All right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Teardown. My name is Jeff Gluck. I'm along with my Jordan, along with my coworker, Jordan Bianchi. Here's what happened. Somebody told me last week. He said it's very lame for you just to call Jordan your coworker. So you need something else.
Yeah.
So then I was thinking, as I was doing the intro, I need something else to just say something different than coworker. And then I just said my Jordan instead of my coworker Jordan.
I mean, it's a little. We're going a whole different direction.
Let's not go there.
I like something bombastic. something a little wow. So if you could work on that'd be great.
Crazy intro. Yeah,
something
like
very
some
Kyle
Vegas.
Larson dominates Las Vegas worthy. Introduction. That's all.
Okay. All right. Well, I am here in Las Vegas, and it's right now. I'm sure it's dark where you are, Jordan. We're still enjoying the last little bit of daylight here in the Pacific time zone. An early race out here. Love that for me because it's not even dinner time yet. So
I like late races on the East Coast, so I'm fine with this. This is great.
Okay. Well, it works out for everybody then. And it certainly worked out for Kyle Larson today. And of course, this is going to be the Jumping to Conclusions podcast.
I'm not doing that this week. I'm not.
Oh,
I heard you on Sirius this week. You sounded great. And you were talking about how like this week you feel like everybody's going to be, jumping to conclusions. And I'm not going to do that because I don't think there's any conclusions to jump to be honest with you.
Is that right? Okay. I mean, well, what did you think?
So here's what we know, right? We knew last year Hendrick is really, really good in Las Vegas. They finished 1, 2, 3. They swept all the stages. They won the race. Hendrick this year finished 1, 2, 3. They won the race. It seems like they're still very fast. Toyota's brought very good race cars. They're fast. The Fords were up there as well. Like I would have a hard time pulling something from this race going, man, going forward, this is going to be something that's going to happen. Like I don't see that. Maybe that's the takeaway or the hot take, but I look at this race as like everything just kind of confirmed what we already knew. Nothing really new came out of this. The biggest thing I guess is Stewart-Haas Racing looked really, really good today, and that might be a 1 week thing. It may be something more. We don't know, but I don't think there's anything to pull from this big picture.
I disagree, of course. I think that first of all, we didn't know anything going into this race. Remember, like it was a huge unknown. What is going to happen? Are we going to see the Chevrolets, specifically Hendrick, come out and show sort of the same dominance that we've seen before? Are we going to see Toyota with their new car come out and it collectively show speed? Are we going to see Ford do the same thing? Is Chevrolet, because those two manufacturers had new cars, are they going to fall off? I think what we saw today is what Cliff Daniels said after the race, which is when he gets on the plane tonight to do his post-race notes, he's going to write to himself that essentially the field is actually much tighter this year than last year. It's much tighter than it seems. We saw Chevrolet have fast cars today. I mean, Byron never got to show it once he fell back, but we saw Larson and Byron were the fastest in practice. Larson then dominates the race and, leads the most laps and all that stuff. But at the same time, like that was not a surprise. He was the favorite because Chevrolet already knew what platform they had to work with. They took their notes from October, which is only a few months ago. They brought them back here. They don't have a new car, and they were able to tweak on it a little bit to get better in the long runs, and that was the setup they had. The other two manufacturers, on the other hand, are trying to figure things out still. But what we saw in my opinion, from the Toyotas at least, they looked a lot faster than you might have thought because they don't really know that much about their car yet, aero-wise. And the fact that they were able to come out and show so much speed with Reddick and the JGR cars, we don't know what would happen with Bubba really had he not had the stuck lug nut. But the Toyotas looked pretty impressive considering how little they really understand about their car. And I think the Fords are fine, but they probably have some work to do. I think they're a little bit behind the other two at the moment. You're laughing at me. Why are you laughing?
No, I'm not laughing. I'm smiling.
Talk in the microphone. I can't even hear you.
It sounds like, much like last year, though, the Toyotas were fast on intermediate racetracks. Ford's got work to do. And Toyotas were so confident about their race car, and to me, it was justified. Like, it showed today that the 45 could run with the 5, which is notable. But it's not. I don't come away from here going, "Oh my goodness, man! Ford is in panic mode. Chevy's so far behind. This or that." It's like, it's kind of just reaffirmed what we kind of suspected, to be honest with you, which we had heard all offseason. Toyota was confident in their Toyota, in their car. We thought, the Chevy guys were going to be good because they're not going to be, at least in the early part of the year, they're going to have their hands wrapped around the car and they're not going to be in scramble mode. They know what adjustments to make to the car and the reaction to those adjustments, where the other manufacturers are still figuring this out. To me, I look at this and like, this just kind of reaffirmed what we kind of already knew. And we still have got still a ways to go before you're shaking your head.
How can you say this is reaffirming what we already knew? We knew nothing. We didn't know anything. So how can this reaffirm that?
Well, Toyota said that their car, they were puffing out their chest and they've been very confident about their car. And so
we didn't know, just because somebody's like, oh, we're probably going to be good. Watch us.
They don't do that. They don't do that. Those folks. They are not people that are going to say something to just say it. They only say it if they're really confident. And it proved accurate. And they were quick today. And Chevys were fast. Like, there was nothing today from this. I'm like, okay, wow, didn't know that. This is surprising. Like, it was just kind of okay. Hendrick's on it. Toyota's on it. Ford's got a little bit of work to do on the intermediate tracks. Okay, let's see what happens at Phoenix now.
Well, it sounds like from what, Cliff Daniels was saying, that they kind of suspected that maybe they would be able to come out early in the season, as you've said and others have said, and maybe jump on this quickly here while the others are still trying to figure out their cars. But he said that given how close like the Toyotas were, for instance, today, he knows they are not taking anything for granted. They're going to have to make big gains themselves. Chevy is. To stay ahead of this, because otherwise this, in a few weeks from now, Toyotas could be much more on this and much faster than Chevy. This might be a different situation. Again, they're trying to figure out their car still. So what you have a weird expression on your face again.
Yeah, no, of course Chevy's going to have to, we knew this though. Cliff is saying something that was very obvious going in. We knew, because Chevy's got an older car, that at the beginning of the year, there was a strong likelihood that they were going to have the leg up, and which they did. But as the year goes along, and as Ford and Toyota get a hold of their car and figure out what they like about their car and how to make it better, they're probably going to surpass Chevrolet at some point, which means then Chevy's got to go to work and figure it out. Okay, yeah, we knew that. To me, this is just, I understand, I get it. Going into this race, I was in the camp of there's a giant question mark. We don't know. There's a lot of questions that are going to be answered today. And I don't really feel like anything was answered. It feels a lot like last year to me.
But that is an answer. Now we know, okay, the balance of power hasn't shifted that much. There's not one manufacturer at this moment that is dominating. We didn't see a Toyota 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We didn't see all 4 Hendrick cars or something go up there.
But that's not worthy of an overreaction.
Why is it an overreaction? We're just
because you said this was going to be the overreaction podcast. You said that.
I said jumping to conclusions.
Same thing. Okay, I'm sorry. Jumping in conclusions. There's no conclusions.
Well, can you make a conclusion that Stewart-Haas Racing is better than you thought?
No, one race does not.
No,
it's one race, Jeff. Hang on a second. It's not like last year. Let's go to Martinsville, for example. Martinsville, both Briscoe and Ryan Preece were really, really good. Preece may have been able to win that race. He's not had an issue on pit road, right? So the point is. And Kevin Harvick last year almost won Phoenix. He almost won a couple other races. Almost won Darlington, Southern 500. It's not we and I'm guilty of this. We tend to paint broadly at Stewart-Haas Racing doom and gloom. They're in trouble. Ship is sinking. Some of it's justifiable, but it's not like they weren't completely, uncompetitive last year. They did have flashing moments. Today was great. It was very good, but you go back and look, Austin Cindric's finished. Strong in this. I think Austin Cindric had a top 5 finish in this race last year or something like that. Top 10 finish in this race last year. It's too soon to take something from this race and go, oh, okay, this is going to be going forward. SHR looked good, but does that mean anything going forward? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it's a 1 week, it could be just a 1 week blip.
I feel like they have something more to work with than we thought they did. It seems like, even in practice, at the tweet up this morning, Chase Briscoe came and I was like, so, speaking of the jumping to conclusions thing, can you look at this, what you have so far, and think, okay, we actually have more speed than we thought. We have something to work with. And he felt like, yeah. And the 14 car was pretty good. They end up fading. I think he had contact with Blaney or something that kind of messed him up, and then he end up falling back. But Noah Gragson, I mean, he was complete. He had such a miserable season last year until he lost his ride. It was horrible. I mean, and so he comes and he said he hadn't even been on a mile and a half track in like 6 or 7 months.
Yeah.
Comes here with we thought was going to be, the floundering organization, and runs P6 at his home track, and looked really good on long run speed.
Yeah.
Aside from a bad qualifying lap, he looked good in practice too. So I definitely am taking something from that. Why would you be like, we can't really ignore that?
I'm looking at it right now. Austin Cindric last year finished 6th. Justin Haley finished 8th. Kevin Harvick finished 9th. Daniel Suarez finished 10th. Like, if you're gonna go, if you're gonna pull results from the first real race of the season and suggest that that's going to be the template going forward, like you're gonna set yourself up for disappointment, because that's not necessarily whole. It may be the case. SHR may have hit on something, and they may have turned the corner. They may be the comeback kids, but I need to see it. I need to see a body of work. I just don't need to see a flash in the pan of one race. Like, give me something more. It's encouraging, sure, but one race isn't enough for me.
Did you think that Spire Motorsports had something to build on? Hocevar ran better than expected.
They look good. They look good. LaJoie looked great. Hocevar ran great. It's too bad about Zane Smith. The unfortunate thing for them was LaJoie again had a really strong run and not the result to show for it. And that's unfortunate. But the stage point was great. That's encouraging.
I mean, Hocevar, again, a rookie.
Yeah. Goes
out and finishes top 15.
Yeah.
I mean, that's impressive. I mean, remember that 77 car last year with Ty Dillon.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah. I mean,
Hocevar keeps getting into stuff and making it better, I feel like.
No, I agree.
I know Spire's improved overall, but still, that's a good run. He was running just outside the top 10 for a while. So, again, you're not taking anything from that. You're not like, oh, maybe he's going to have a better season than expected. We didn't pick him for Rookie of the Year. We picked Josh Berry.
I think he had a chance to win Rookie of the Year. He obviously, whoever they put in the 77 car was going to be better than Ty Dillon. That's just a low bar. And he obviously is going to do better than what Ty did last year. And, yeah, it was great. It was good. Can you do this the whole season? I hope so. We'll see.
You're not taking anything from Spire having speed. You're not like, wow, that's impressive.
It's encouraging. It won in a first normal race of the season. It's absolutely encouraging. LaJoie also had a great run at Fontana last year. Like, it just you have but it's one race. I need to see more, before I get too amped up and excited and like, oh my goodness, oh my God, Stewart Haas Racing is back. Spire's gonna do this. Like, yeah, I could see it. Yeah, maybe, potentially. Good run. Now, give me more of that, though. Give me more reasons to believe, not just a 1 week thing.
All right. Well, let me throw this at you on the other side of things. Now, we don't know what would have happened with Buescher because he went out so early and, slammed the wall with his wheel that came off. And
that was
Keselowski,
a great job by Fox, by the way.
Yeah, they really nailed that camera work. Keselowski ends up finishing 13th, but he really was... I felt like he struggled today. So I really was like, I don't know about RFK now. I was concerned with their performance today, but you not jumping to conclusions, you would argue that it's nothing to be concerned about and they'll be just fine. Is that what you're saying?
I would say that it's one race and it's early in the season, and Brad came back. As bad as Brad ran at the beginning, he came back and finished 13th. So that's...
Yeah, but it's how you run. They didn't look good, right?
Yeah, I'm not...
You're not worried about that at all?
No.
First real race, you come out and you're like, we're not really a top 15 car here, and that's just
it's early season. You're working through it. Everybody's figuring out what they've got. Yeah, I'm not ready to paint anything with a broad brush. I've learned from my mistakes in the past.
Okay, how about Front Row Motorsports? Both their cars today, 24th and 25th. Ran together. And that's,
you expect... Again, I love what Front Row's done. Front Row deserves all the credit in the world for what the programs they have built and all the success they've had. It's certainly deserved. And Michael McDowell's win last year at Indy was incredible. But on intermediate racetracks, they're not world beaters. They haven't been world beaters. They had a great first 2 weeks of the year. What kind of tracks were those? Those were super speedways. Those are the bread and butter tracks for Front Row Motorsports, where they actually have multiple wins on those racetracks. 2013, 2021. Like when you go to a super speedway, we say it all the time. Look for Front Row Motorsports to be in the mix, whether it's Gilliland, whether it's McDowell or Reagan, and whoever's in one of those front row cars, they're going to be in the mix because they're good at They're good at super speedways. They're not good on intermediate tracks. That's not their forte. Like that. So them coming here and thinking that they were going to do well. Michael McDowell's average finish at Vegas is like 29th. Todd Gilliland's never led a lap here. Like, I mean, there was nothing about that. There was nothing to pull from Daytona and Atlanta and say, oh man, yeah, front row's on it this year. Like, no, like that was a super speedways. They're on it at super speedways. They always are. But when it comes to intermediate racetracks, they still have work to do. You can't argue otherwise.
Michael McDowell was in the top 16 in points almost the entire season last year. So they did have good runs, good enough runs at all sorts of tracks. It wasn't just a road course and super speedway thing that they built their season on. But hey, that's fine if I don't know. I feel like you could definitely tell some stuff from today, but you're going to stick to your...
No, tell me what you learned.
I did. I just did. I said Stewart Haas Racing has more speed than we expected. Spire has something to work with. The Toyotas really seem like they could be, a month or two away from going on quite a run here. And because, it's like...
Hang on a second. Sorry.
What?
Can I go back for... I'm looking at Michael McDowell's stats last year on mile and a half racetracks. 25th at Las Vegas. Kansas, 26th. Charlotte, 28th. Nashville, 28th. Michigan.
Are you cherry picking when you go?
No.
Are you skipping over?
No,
the
I'm literally going
results?
through. I've literally not seen a top 10. I'm literally going one by one on mile and a half racetracks. Kansas 26th, Texas 15th. Like Vegas last year. Vegas 17th. So like, no, I'm not cherry picking. I'm looking at Homestead 22nd. I'm literally looking at every mile and a half racetrack last year.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Well, I think I will be actually proven right that there are things that can be taken from this race, that we got enough hints. I tell you what, another hint, 2311's pit crews have some work to do. Are you not going to jump to that conclusion yet?
No, I am
Tyler
going to jump
Reddick
to that conclusion because this is not a new thing. Like, this is a recurring issue. This has been a recurring issue on pit road. This goes back to, they were Gibbs crews in 2022, but like this has repeatedly been their bugaboo is pit road. And again, Tyler Reddick today was very displeased with his pit crew, and I don't want to say that Bubba Wallace's issues on pit road were his pit crew, but pit road, whatever you want to call that was their downfall as well. So no, absolutely, this is a concern, but it has been a concern for a while.
Okay, so you can jump to conclusions that 2311 has not improved their pit crews, but in terms of any of the performance of cars actually going around the track, you don't want to go there. Okay, I got you.
No, I'm just saying I look at the body of work for the pit crews. I go back to last year, and it was an issue then. Tyler Reddick, numerous times last year, had issues on pit road that cost him wins. That has apparently not been fixed. And so...
Okay, well, that's a great conclusion. Thank you, Jordan, for coming to this conclusion that's about something competition related. I'm very excited. That's just great. Now we have something to work with. This is wonderful. Well, I will say that Tyler Reddick definitely, I was a little bit nervous going into the year about one of my picks because I picked Tyler Reddick to make the Final Four. And I was like, well, I don't know. I feel like he could, but, last year they were hampered by so much during the regular season, couldn't get out of their own way. Then he had a good playoffs. And it was like, okay, they're putting stuff together here. And I was looking at the playoffs this year and just thought, if they show speed and then he gets to the playoffs, and he could have another good run with some playoff points this time. He was seemingly second best today. Larson beat Reddick in both stages barely. And then Reddick was obviously coming on strong there at the end. Larson talked about how he had to aero block, and that is a quite the acquired skill here in the next gen era. That is not not everybody can do it. Larson knew he had to do it, and he talked afterward about how, you're pretty much looking in your mirror 50% of the time and mirror driving and looking out the front the other 50% and doing what you have to do. But that's how you win these races, in these duels at the end there. We saw somewhat similar last fall. Christopher Bell was trying to catch Larson late and thought it was a missed opportunity. But yeah, I mean, it's I know some fans don't love that aspect of it, but it's definitely part of this racing now. And you have to be just as good at that as you have to be about, running the wall or doing whatever you can. Larson did it well, and, not a surprise at all, obviously, to see him win this early in the season, especially at this track. But, comes out and makes a statement pretty quick.
I think it was great. And the one thing that really stood out to me about Kyle Larson was so often last year, so often the year before, it was they let wins get away from them, right? They would have fast race cars, lead laps, do all of these things, and then for one mistake or whatever, they would let the win get away from them. I'd have to go back and look, but off the top of my head, I don't remember this felt like almost like a perfect race, right? Larson drove a great race, flawless, pit crew, flawless, just boom, no issues whatsoever, smooth. Like that is, this would remind me of 2021 in a lot of respects, of like just so many of Larson's wins that year where it was just like, boom, just go out there, fast car, execute, no issues, pick up the checkered flag, go home. And that was great. And it was not something you've seen a lot of this team out of this team. They have been mistake prone. As good as and great as they are, they still have let so many wins get away from them the last couple of years. Kyle Larson should have 6 wins last year, easy, and they didn't. And he made a really good point in his press conference, I thought, talking about bonus points and stuff. And he's right. Like they left a lot of bonus points on the table last year, and it ultimately didn't matter because he still made it to the championship 4. But you never know when you need those in your back pocket. And in 2021, it helped him because they had issues at some races. It helped him. Like you need to amass as many bonus points as you can, and I think that is that should be the focus for that team this year, and it seems like it is. And they went out today and just boom, stage wins, race win. It's like a perfect game almost.
Yeah, I mean he leads 8 different times during this race for 181 laps. The next closest person in terms of laps led was Kyle Busch, who led 18 laps. So 181 to 18.
Yeah.
Quite the dominant performance. And then I know I've been talking recently more about this dude Trey Ryan on Twitter. Great stats all the time. Great follow. He had this stat this week that he posted that out of the last 100 Cup Series races, the driver who leads the most laps has only won 39 of those 100. And, on The Athletic, I've been keeping track of sort of, it's not necessarily most laps led, but the fastest car. Does the fastest car win the race? I'm putting that in my column each week. And so far, it's been 0 for 3, including the Clash. So now it's 1 for 4 because clearly the fastest car today won the race. And again, it doesn't always happen that way, right? Like you could have something fluky at the end, or you could have a late race caution, or you could have had Reddick. Had Larson made one more mistake, Reddick could have come up there and made a pass, and we'd be talking something about a different conversation. But no, I mean, I think that you can't guarantee that speed is always going to get you these wins, but they executed perfectly today, and they got a very well-deserved win. So now Hendrick has won 2 of the first 3 races in their 40th anniversary season. They, they have half their drivers in the playoffs already. It does seem, though, that still you want to know what's going on with Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman. Elliott, he was in the top 10 for a lot of it today, ends up fading to 12th. Bowman, he finishes 18th. He was up there, but I think that was sort of on the low end of his performance today, and I don't think he had great pit stops either. But the other 300 cars had really good pit stops, I think. So we'll see if those, it still seems like Chase Elliott is not getting the feel he wants out of the next gen car quite yet. And, I don't know when that's coming but it's got to be increasingly frustrating for him to see his teammates, have fast cars, even if in practice, and you're like, well, what's going on with Chase, you know?
Yeah, and it's been that way for a while, and it feels like something is amiss with that team. And whether it's the next gen car, whether it's something else, who knows? But it's not just the lack of winning, which I think is now what 37 races, if my math is correct. It's the lack of performance. We talk a lot about Trackhouse and the disconnect between Chastain and Suarez that happened, right? Well, there's a disconnect going on in Hendrick that's just as noticeable between Larson and Byron and all of the wins that they've amassed since the start of last year, and they made it to the championship 4. And Elliott's not winning races. He's not leading a ton of laps. He's not winning a bunch of stages. A lot of his races kind of take on the complexion of what today's race was, which is looks bad early on. They figure it out, comes back, gets into the top 10, finishes bottom half of the top 10 or just outside of it, which is what happened today. Like, it's just this, when is the last time like Elliott had a great qualifying run, dominant race, and put this all together? Like, I mean, maybe Indy, and like he didn't win that race, but he had a great day that day. It's been a while. And like what the 5 and the 24 are doing is noticeable. And you can throw the 48 in there if you want, but the 48's not Chase Elliott. He's not a former Cup champion. He's not one of NASCAR's best. Like, that's a whole different conversation. But I don't know. It's interesting because it's like you look at the first 2 races of the year, and there's some talk of this. And I wrote about this in The Athletic this week because I got a question about this. It's like, oh, is Chase Elliott back? Because he's like 6th in points. And it's like, let's pump the brakes. Like, we had 2 super speedway races. Fine there. But we need to see what he does on quote unquote a normal track. And today, it was the same. Like, Byron was great today. Byron doesn't have his issues and doesn't pick up a trash bag or whatever that thing was. Like, he's probably top 3. He may even won the race. Who knows, right? And, he had a great car. They did a remarkable job of coming back and making do with that. I don't know. The longer this goes, though, the more you wonder. Like, the questions are gonna mount of like, why aren't you running that well? Why? And there is no answer. Because every time you ask that question, it's like, oh, well, we're working on some things. Well, what are you working on? We're working on some things. Okay, well, what? Because whatever you're working on isn't working.
Well, ultimately, it was the driver who was the favorite in the Vegas odds to win this race who did win. But of course, a lot of people can't bet if they're not in Vegas. That is now changing for North Carolina coming up very soon. So get ready because FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, is launching in North Carolina very soon, just in time for the biggest college football tournament of the year. And right now you can get $100 in bonus bets just for signing up before March 11th. That's when it goes officially live. So just go to FanDuel.com/teardown and join today. And then you'll be all set to bet when FanDuel is officially live. Soon you'll be able to bet on all your favorite teams and all your favorite sports, from parlays to prop bets, boxing to basketball. FanDuel has it all. So head to FanDuel.com/teardown to sign up and lock in $100 in bonus bets. That could be very helpful. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Now, of course, you must be 21 or over and present in North Carolina. Bonuses are issued in non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 30 days after FanDuel accepts its first real money sports wager in North Carolina. Unique user identity verification is required. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you have a gambling problem, call 877-718-5543 or visit morethanagame.nc.gov. And as long as we are talking about plugs and things like that, Jordan, you plugged your mailbag that you had on The Athletic this week. Obviously, we appreciate your support. For those of you who are subscribers to The Athletic, I thought Jordan's mailbag was pretty interesting. I learned some things there myself. You can read all our coverage of my 12 questions. This week, I'm going to have I really like this. I have a great interview. I thought Tony Stewart was really interesting. The NHRA season is starting this week, so I have a Q&A with him. I'm excited for you guys to read that. And to do that, you can go to theathletic.com/NASCAR, our own section. So, yeah, those are 2 little plugs to start things off here, Jordan. What did I do good on my ad reads?
You were fantastic, man. Smooth. You're like natural. Like, you could do this all the time. Get this man his own show on Sirius. Monday through Friday.
Okay. You don't need to butter me up.
Gluck's Garage.
All right. Gluck's Garage. All right. So, Phoenix is coming up, and obviously we're going to jump to more conclusions there. But here's the thing. There's a new aero package that they're going to be working with. The short track package has been tweaked a little bit. Are you expecting anything shift in the balance? Are we going to see different players that we saw last fall? I mean, it wasn't that long ago we were at Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, the people I've talked to, there's not much optimism. I don't know what you've heard.
Optimism about what? The quality of the racing?
About the quality of the racing and whether the short track package is going to be better. The short track racing is going to be better this year. From the people I talked to, they feel like it's still kind of the same, and it's going to be a challenge, and we'll see. I will say there was a comment Toyota's president David Wilson made on an interview we were both a part of, about the Phoenix test, and he was like, man, like the feedback from Phoenix was that the Toyotas were fast, and so I'm curious to see if that optimism is genuine, and we'll see. But I don't know. It's gonna be interesting because there's just we feel like we always talk about this of like the short track package. What are you gonna do to fix it? What's it gonna be done? And like if you go to Phoenix and it's just and it's like then what? And then Richmond's coming up, and Richmond's just like it just we've talked about this. Like what levers do you pull then?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I'm not really sure what to expect at all. It sounds like there was some optimism that they found something toward the end of that test that the drivers could work with a little bit more. But is that going to be a game changer? Like, is the race going to look totally different? It's hard for me to imagine that because we've just sort of, over the years you hear, oh, this is going to make this change. And everybody gets all talking about it. Oh, they're going to be able to do this now. Softer tire, or they're doing this thing with aero, and then you're like, well, I don't know. It didn't really visually look that much different. And the drivers get out and they're like, I don't know, it kind of felt the same. So,
and it's not like Phoenix is like an amazing track. It's not like there's typically barn burners at Phoenix that you can go back to. Like, oh man, we need to go back to that era of Phoenix. It's like the Phoenix races kind of largely always feel like the same.
Yeah, I mean. They got to get it right.
They do.
It's obviously still the championship, at least for this year. Maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, not next year, but we don't know. But I don't know. Either way, they got to get short tracks right, so you got to work on it. But I guess, can you jump to a conclusion if you don't see an improvement in the racing next week?
Okay, I will say I think you can, because you've had an off season of testing. You've had a bunch of people spend time on this, and break this down and try different things. And coming out of that test, everybody was just kind of shrugged their shoulders. And you're also going to have a practice session next week, which I think is notable. So you're going to have an opportunity to work on this. And yeah, I think that if the racing isn't better, or it's much the same like last year, you compare it. And but I will say, I didn't think the championship race, I didn't think was terrible. Like, I'm having a hard time remembering. I just remember the battle there with Ross and Ryan, and Ryan came from the mid pack a little bit. Like, I didn't walk away from that race feeling like that was a horrible race. Oh my, my arms weren't raised like, oh my God, this is horrible. This is the worst, race ever. And we need to do everything we can to fix the package. It was like, okay, that's not bad. But I think the telltale sign is when you go to places like Richmond and Martinsville. Those are the short tracks where we know what to expect there. We have certain expectations, and that's gonna be more indicative of whether this package is working or not, especially Martinsville.
Fair enough. Another notable thing that happened here this weekend was Rajah Caruth won his first career Truck Series race. You had written a nice profile of Rajah a few years ago, and I think you've done a really good point on emphasizing why his path is important. Because, and William Byron said this too, kind of this week, like Rajah is a much better example in some ways of the iRacing straight to NASCAR path than Byron was, because Byron got into it through iRacing and he was like all excited about it, but then it was like, all right, well, I want to try real life cars, And so like what can I do? So, his dad got him into Legends cars and stuff like that, and he started racing that way. Rajah was like much more trying to parlay it from going from like really online racing straight into the real stuff based on how he had performed in the online racing world. I don't know if that's the right way to put that. I mean, he didn't get in a real car until 2019, I believe, right? For the first time.
Correct.
And now he's won a truck series race. So what do you think of the accomplishment that he has made?
I think it's huge, and I don't think enough can be stated about his path and his journey in that transition. I mean, this is, like you noted, like at least Byron kind of sort of went the traditional path. Once he decided wanted to get into actual real racing, it's like he hopped into a Legends car. Now he hopped into it late, but that is still the tried and true path. And Rajah, like, man, this was jumping in the deep end, and it was like boom. And I remember being with him in 2021 at a short track in North Carolina. And he was like this was like a sponge soaking everything up. But he was in school, like just going to school, learning all of this and processing in real time and trying to apply it. And it's been fascinating to watch him. And I think, anybody who's watched him over the years, you're kind of been waiting for this, is it going to happen? When's that next, and he's had success in late models and stuff to some degrees. He's won some races, but it was like, you were looking for it in ARCA series. Last year in the truck series, there was flashes here and there. It's like he had a really, really strong run at Nashville. Truck has a mechanical problem. Never got the, and it was like, oh, but there was still like this rawness to him of like, are you going to be able to shape that and be a driver who, doesn't get into accidents and has that speed, but knows able to take that speed and get good finishes with it. And there was a question of that, and you're seeing that now. And he's still, and he's got a long way to go still, but it's like this was to win here like this. Like if he would have won at Daytona or Atlanta, what would have been? It would have been like super speedway, and it would just kind of been okay, cool. But you got to do it on a regular track, and like to go here at Las Vegas in the manner he did. And I think what's really important was how he did it too. Like he didn't make any mistakes late. He was calm and cool, and just all the guys he's racing with, guys who've been in the series, who've got loads more experience, in some cases championships, they all had issues on getting onto pit road or pit road penalties. Nothing. Flawless. They executed. Like that's the Rajah we haven't seen. That was a huge win, and I think this is the floodgates.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you because it felt like he struggled to put a complete race together, and there would always be something that got in his way. And even when he showed the flashes of speed, I didn't realize until I think Jamie Little said this on the broadcast, but he'd only led 2 career laps prior to the other night. And then he goes out and controls that race, late. And I think he led 38 laps or something. And, it's just sort of like all that work you can see is paying off. And you hear them talk about it on Door Bumper Clear all the time, how he's up on the roof and asking them questions. And you hear other drivers. I mean, Kyle Busch talked about it this week, how he'll come up to Kyle Busch on pit road and ask him questions and say, oh, this might be a dumb question, but and Kyle's like, no, it's actually a really good question. He never assumes that he knows everything. He's humble, right? And everybody respects him for working hard. I mean, you can tell sort of the outpouring from the industry. You could see it on social media. People like Ross Chastain coming to Victory Lane, who, he trains with their friends. Like people respect somebody who works really hard, like, and they want to see that pay off. And the fact that you hear numerous people say, man, he works about as hard as anybody or harder than anybody to try to get this. I think that's a really good sign for him. Still pretty young, right? He just turned 21 and, he's focused. And like you said, now I think this is something he can work with. And the Spire trucks, by the way, look good too. They're undefeated.
Yeah,
3 for 3 to open the season. So, yeah,
Spires
interesting dynamic then.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it the nail on the head with Raj. Like Rajah, he works so damn hard. Like I can't say that enough. Like he shows up at the racetrack when he doesn't even have to be at the racetrack. Like he's there just to be there, to ask questions, to take everything in. And it's like all of the time. And it's been this way for years. And it's not anything that's been handed to him. He works hard. Really, he puts the time in. He goes to school. He goes, works in the shop. He does all of these things. Like this is somebody who is doing everything he can, to make it to his goal. And it's nice to see someone rewarded for that.
Well, if you want to learn more about Rajah, I think we're all still learning more about him and his life story. Check out Door Bumper Clear this week. He will be
Yeah.
the guest, the special guest there. I think he's filling in for Brett, so that's quite a difference there. But yeah, so hopefully that'll be a good show, and I'll be looking forward to listening to that. As well as Actions Detrimental coming tomorrow. I think Denny's got to fly home first, but I'll be very curious to see what Denny thought of this race because it was I thought that maybe the JGR cars would have a little bit more. It really seemed like Tyler Reddick was better than the JGR cars. So obviously part of the same alliance, but it was interesting. Denny, by the way, 300 grand in a blackjack tournament.
That's not bad.
So not bad. Yeah.
Not bad. Not bad. I think maybe we should have like
take all,
a Dirty Mo, he should throw like a Dirty Mo party or something like that.
Oh, okay. Are you going to bring your margaritas?
No, man, he's taking us out. Like, you got 300 grand. You can buy us drinks. I out at a bar. Like, I'm not bringing anything.
Oh, okay. That's a lot of drinks.
I'm not saying we're going to spend all $3,000 on it, or 300 grand on it, but like a couple rounds would be nice.
Okay. I didn't know you were that hard up for alcohol, but I can buy you a drink if you're
Jeff.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Anyway, I don't know. One more thing before the good race poll. Sorry. I did want to talk about the show and tell that we saw this week.
Oh my God, so cool.
I love the NASCAR show and tell. This week's show and tell was the SHR roof rails, which were not appealed. They are supposed to lie flat. I don't know if you can. They were supposed to lie flat on the roof, but they had punched these holes around where I think the bolts go in and kind of raised the holes up way more than they should be. So it made it stick up more in the air, and that was worth 35 points or whatever that was. But the really cool thing was the Joey Logano glove. Based on what we had seen on TV, it looked like it was just webbed between his thumb and his forefinger. No, the whole thing was webbed all the way. And Joey Logano did not like talking about that, not like being questioned about that, it seemed, in the media center. It seemed like he was embarrassed by it and all these things, and didn't love the questioning, wouldn't say whether he had it in the Daytona 500 qualifying. He did, but he wouldn't say that. Who knows how long he's done it, but he made it clear, like, he said, I don't know how to sew. Like, this was somebody, they said, wear this. You know what I mean? And you do it. And all the drivers would do that probably if their team said that, right? So, yeah. But you just love to see the ingenuity and innovation. Smart, so cool. But they got caught, but still smart.
Yeah, execution was bad. Ingenuity was, great. I love it. Like, somebody's like sitting there dreaming this up going, okay, we need to figure out how to block airflow into the car. And the drivers put their hands up. It's like you can see the wheels like spinning in their heads or something. It's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, and I think Dale Jr. on Dale Jr. Download said they used to have some sort of plastic blocking thing from inside, and all the little tricks. You love to see that stuff. But I mean, look, and you get caught, you get caught. But by the way, NASCAR said they were not tipped off on this. This was something that they have these in-car cameras. And they do random checks of this. NASCAR said they look at 5 a week because they're looking for safety things like the head surround stuff, making sure people's belts are right. And one of the things they look at, I guess, is the gloves, the window net. And when they saw Logano doing that, they were able to slow their cameras down enough and spot it. So they said they were not tipped off, and it was a random, unfortunate thing for Joey, but it really didn't hurt him that much.
No,
obviously,
he lost 10
got lucky
grand
last week.
Yeah.
But I mean, he clearly is embarrassed.
But
he doesn't seem to like talking about it. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, he's the front face person of that organization. So like, he's the one who's got to take the brunt of the questions when it almost certainly wasn't his idea or anything along with those lines. So it's more the issue with the Stewart Haas cars, though, is the points penalty. Like, I'm looking at it today with Gragson, great run, like great, fantastic run. It's like still buried, the deep 30s in points. That's just how bad of a start to the year it's been accompanied with the points penalty. And it's like, man, you're going to have a lot more of these days because you're going to need them if you're going to pull out of this hole.
Yeah, right. I mean, Noah was saying on pit road after, like, hey, I'm back in the positive points now because he was negative
Yeah.
before this. So it's interesting. I mean, I think the points are already starting to sort themselves out a little bit more. When you look in the top 16, I mean, maybe you could argue that both Legacy Motor Club drivers being in the top 16 in points right now is a surprise, but a lot of the other names are people, aside maybe not Austin Cindric, but people that we had tabbed to make it. So there's not a bunch of huge shocks at the moment, and it would have looked different too. I mean, there was some big penalties today. I mean, Cindric was one, Kyle Busch was one, Chastain speeding again seemed to be really down on himself for that. I mean, has he sped in 3 straight races or something? Is that correct?
Two, I think two.
Okay.
But you brought up Kyle Busch, and I want to touch on him really quick too. Like,
Yeah.
4 penalties on pit road this year. 4. That's brutal.
Wow.
And they had a fast car, and that's like he was able to overcome it at Atlanta and almost still won the race, but he wasn't able to come back today.
Yeah. Now, and it's we are into the real season now, and we've been saying that, but it is 3 races in as well. Like,
yeah,
the other first two races did count.
Yeah, I mean,
points, so.
yeah, exactly, and that's why when I look at this, like, Brad Keselowski's 28th in points, and that's a big hole. That's not, you can overcome that, no problem. You go back to running like you did last year, that's fine, but your other guys start winning and moving that lineup, like, it makes your tall task even harder, and that's not good.
Yep. All right. Well, should we do the good race poll?
Yeah, I suppose.
Oh, you're not excited? You won last week, right?
I did. I won. It was great. I'm very happy I won. I think this is going to be an absolute pain in the butt to predict.
Really? You think this one's hard?
I do think it's hard.
Oh, I don't think it's that hard, but you have to go first, so.
You want to go first? I'll let you go first. You want to go first?
No,
I'm a gentleman.
You have to.
You go first.
And also, I was criticized by people for dropping my, cutthroat Jeff all the way last week, which cost me. Mm-hmm. All I had to do was go a little bit lower than you for the Atlanta poll. And I would have won, but I went too low because I was trying to give a real guess, and that cost me. So I'd be up 2-1. Now I'm down to 2-1. But
long season.
Or whatever it is. What's that?
Long season.
Yeah. Anyway, you go first. So what you got? What are you taking so you're taking so long that I'm gonna have to cut dead air out of the podcast?
No,
Just give me an
I'm
answer.
thinking.
You can't think. We've already done. We've done a whole podcast about this. Just spit out your answer.
Sure, 73%.
Oh, what's your reasoning?
It wasn't a great race, wasn't a bad race, and I feel like 73 is the finish was good enough. Popular winner. I feel like it's just gonna get just gonna be right there that's kind of like the middle ground, if you will.
Okay. Well, the Las Vegas playoff race from last year that Larson won got exactly 73%. So you're thinking it's going to be right along those lines. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I will say 72.9 because I thought it was going to be low 70s. I was actually going to pick 72, but I'll pick 72.9. And I do think it'll be in the 70s. I think it was that kind of, it was fine. I thought it was a fine race.
Perfectly acceptable.
I like straight up races, straightforward. You can't have Atlantas every week. This was the real racing, and we got to see it play out. So I'm good with it. I was fairly entertained. You got a good battle for the end. There's a good battle for every stage. The restarts were fantastic. Holy cow. They were going 3 wide all over the place. Intermediates with the next gen. This is exactly what you sort of thought you would get, and it was good. So
yeah,
I was fine with it.
Yeah. Cutthroat Jeff back. Can't
Sorry.
win straight up. Find out a different way. You're like the Stewart-Haas Racing of this game.
Oh, well, I mean, their cheating doesn't help them so
Well,
far, it seems like.
today,
So,
well, they finished sixth today, so I don't know if they're cheating or not.
Jordan, I think that, last week we do these on YouTube, and last week somebody chimed in with a question for us, and I think we gave the wrong answer about the finish line for our YouTube live people. We said it was like the first line you come to. I wasn't even sure what the finish line was, and then you saw the picture. It was like the middle yellow line. So
Yeah, I thought that's what we said, but apparently we did not. So
no, we said the first line,
Okay.
very first line of whatever it was. Anyway, that was incorrect. Sorry, whoever paid for that question to get a wrong answer. But let's try again with the people watching on YouTube Live. Let's get some questions going, and we'll try to do a little Q&A and see what we got here. So here's the first question, Jordan. Will the 2025 schedule look way different than 2024? You are a schedule fiend. So
You go
what do you
first
got
on-
for us?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what way different is. I think there's going to be some new tracks. I think at least one for sure, because that's kind of been the MO of NASCAR is to add at least one new thing. We know, let me take that back. Sorry. We highly expect the Clash to be on the move. So I would expect there's going to be some new tracks. We know NASCAR wants to race international. There is a really hard push. They thought they were going to do it last year. It didn't happen. I would be shocked if there's not an international race in the schedule next year.
So here's I know this is the listener questions part, but following up on what you said about the 2025 schedule, there's been a lot of chatter about what Steve Phelps said on the Fox pre-race show, where he said something like, "I would be surprised if we're not racing in Mexico, in Canada," and then he also said there'll be a Southern California presence next year. People want to talk about that at the tweet up today. What's he talking about? A lot of California fans were there today, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know what that is about, because I haven't heard anything personally that leads me to believe that there is a replacement in the works. Obviously, Fontana is not an option. So, and if they're not going to go back to the Coliseum, I don't know. So if anybody else knows.
I mean, I haven't. You and I need to talk off air because I heard something today that I'm not ready to say publicly yet about Southern California. There's conversations about different ideas, but to say that it's down the road or it's going to happen or anything like that, I wouldn't feel confident at all saying. I think, to me, this is a president optimistically thinking like, hey, we can do X, Y, Z. But as we know, like sometimes doing X, Y, Z is not things happen and you've kind of got to settle, do different things. You could race. I think there'll be an international race. Could you do both next year? Absolutely, you could. Do a lot of things have to happen for that to fall into place, though? Absolutely. And so I just think that's a big ask to do that. And the Southern California piece of it is sure, but is it worth it? First of all, is the return going to be enough? And I don't know. We'll see.
We also getting a question here. Our opinions on the Xfinity race. What's going on with Xfinity right now, man? Like Xfinity, everybody used to point to it and be like, "Man, Xfinity's the best racing. This is what everybody loves." I feel like Xfinity's had some stinkers this year. If not for the fuel mileage thing at Atlanta, that kind of made that a little bit more interesting. That race would have been, a snoozer. And then this race that John Hunter Nemechek won the other night, last night, I guess. You're just like, I don't know. I just wasn't very thrilled by that one. So what's the deal? Any idea?
I have no idea. It's just not been competitive. It hasn't been entertaining. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. It's just not been good. And you would think it would be, because they usually race really well on intermediate racetracks. And Daytona and I always, man, I got to stop doing that. I always keep calling Atlanta Talladega because I'm still so used to not used to Atlanta.
Being paired.
Yeah, it's not in my head yet. And it should be, and it's not. You would think Daytona and Atlanta would offer enough of a great start to the year, and it hasn't been. Like, you go back a week ago, and that was by far the worst race of the weekend. And yesterday's Xfinity race was the worst race of the weekend. Like, I thought the truck race was pretty solid. I don't know what the issue is. I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully.
I wish I had a
can
better
turn it
answer than
around.
that. I don't.
Yeah.
But it's not.
We have another question here. Ty Gibbs with the top 5. Does he break through this year and get his first win? We both think he will.
Yeah.
He's in the play. We both have him in our playoffs, and we both think he's going to win his first race. But we didn't need this today to see that. This just sort of reaffirms. Again, me jumping to conclusions, Jordan saying he's not surprised by anything he saw today. However you want to interpret that, we both still think Ty Gibbs is going to get his first win this year. So.
I think Ty Gibbs, the start he's had, ninth in the points, strong runs, is encouraging because you see young drivers get hyped up. It's like, oh man, this is going to be, they had a great rookie year. They're going to break out, right? And then they get off to a slow start. Doesn't happen, whatever. And it's like, no, like he's doing it. Like he's going out and putting together good races, having strong runs. Even when he had a setback on pit road today, he comes out and rallies from that. Like you can just see it getting better and better. And it feels like it's going to happen pretty quick here. And I don't want to say any given week, but it certainly feels like it could happen sooner rather than later.
And another question here: will Spire win a race this year?
I think so. I mean,
really?
I think the potential is certainly there. I mean, LaJoie on super speedways is great. Like he just is really, really good at putting himself in position. They have speed in their race cars. He was running top 5 today. At one point, I know it was some of his strategy and everything, but like still, like legit was running there. And Hocevar continues to impress. And I know it's a huge ask for a rookie to get a win, but like it just feels that like some point we see teams kind of, it happens like just this like you fall into one or something like that. Like even if they don't have anything, at some point you think like Spire would fall into it at some point. And I think the fact that they've got speed in their race cars, they've got a bunch of resources now. You can see what they're doing in the truck series as a template for getting better and building something. Like why couldn't LaJoie win a race this year?
Yeah, I mean, look, LaJoie is really impressive. He was passing Martin Truex Jr. 1 point and stuff, and you're like, okay, they got something. But to win a race, I mean, that's a whole different level of. You're talking about you're going to beat all the Hendrick guys, all the Gibbs guys, Penske 23-11. I mean, that's a tall order because they're going up. They're not a key partner for Chevrolet, right? And they're going up against teams Trackhouse, that Childress, who have way more resources. So for them to even be in the conversation is impressive, but I don't know. I don't see them winning a race. That's going to be tough. It's going to be pretty tough. It's not a super speedway or something, but
yeah, see that, then that's where I'm at. It's like, I feel like if it does happen, it's going to be on a super speedway on merit because LaJoie is really good in those races.
With how great the intermediate races have been with the next gen, should tracks like Kentucky and Chicagoland be added back to the schedule? I mean, Chicagoland, I think that I could see them racing again there at some point.
That's where I'm at too. Like,
yeah, but Kentucky, I don't see Kentucky.
I don't see the point
because
remember,
where did Kentucky's race go? Second Atlanta. Yeah. Well, now you're not going to take a race away from Atlanta, a second one.
Where's
now
that race?
Like Atlanta.
Yeah, where's the date gonna come? That's the big question. And that's when you look at this, it's like a puzzle. It's like, where is that date coming from? It is not coming from Atlanta. They just poured a bunch of money in there, and they don't want to give up. They like the second race after last week. Like Atlanta may be second race on the schedule next year because it did work. The ratings were up. People were excited by it and everything. Like it feels like that. And then they got a playoff race. Well, they're not going to pull a playoff race from Atlanta. And so it's not, again, I wrote about this in The Athletic this week. It's not like it's in a market that's underserved. Like there's a bunch of racetracks that are 5-6 hours from there that if you're a race fan, you want to go to see a race, like you've got options. It's not like it's in the Pacific Northwest or some underserved market. It's like, oh man, we got to go there because there's no other race. Like, no, like you got options. So in Chicago, I agree with you. So I was going to say Chicago, yeah. I agree with you. Like, I don't know when, but like whenever the Chicago street course runs its course, pun intended, like I think you're done at Chicagoland, man.
We have 2 more questions here. How close is Honda to being a new manufacturer in the Cup Series? Well, first of all, I mean, they may very well be in the Cup Series, but you have to come up with a car, an engine. It will take a while. It won't be like, it's not like they can come next year.
Yeah.
So we're talking down the road. Even if they say, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to make our announcement, they've got a lot of work to do. It wouldn't be like suddenly, hey, Stuart Haas is going to switch to Honda next year or something.
But Jeff, all my Twitter mentions say that's happening.
Oh, well, is that possible? I don't think it's possible.
No, I mean you hit it. You nailed it perfectly. Like these aren't things that like you just announce like, hey, we're coming back next year. It's like you've got to submit all of this stuff to NASCAR. NASCAR has to approve it. Then you've got to do testing and all of this stuff. It's like this is a process, and that process hasn't even started yet, to my knowledge, unless NASCAR's kept this under wraps, which I don't think they have. So like, yeah, this is at some point they may. It ain't going to be for 2025 though.
Okay. And final question. You probably all saw this week, our coworker at The Athletic, Andrew Marchand, reported that Dale Earnhardt Jr. is leaving the NBC booth and he will be going to Amazon and Warner Brothers, whatever. What are we calling this? Like TNT / Warner Brothers.
I just call it Warner
conglomerate.
Brothers. I call it Warner Brothers because it's TNT, but it's also the streaming component as well. So I just kind of do the Warner Brothers broad sweep.
Okay, so he's doing that. How do we feel about him leaving? And who is your super booth? You want to go first? You want me to go first?
You pick. I defer to you. I always defer to you. You go first.
Well, I mean, first of all, my feeling on it is I feel really bummed that it seemingly he's not going to be on TV this year. I mean, obviously we're here on Dirty Mo Media, so you could think I'm biased, but just legitimately, I think Dale Jr. is the most important person in NASCAR, and for him to not be on TV in any form this year seems like a huge miss to me. I mean, I think that's a really, really valuable voice, and it's something that when you're listening on the broadcast, you're like, I need this guy's perspective. So the fact that that wasn't able to happen that bums me out. That said, I mean, I think this is great, going forward in the future. I mean, he'll give credibility to these new broadcast partners that are coming in, but still you're like, dang, like they couldn't have worked this out. Like I don't know what happened here. I wish the NBC had been able to bring him back at least for this year. As far as like an Amazon super booth, like who would be good with him? Who would be good play-by-play guy? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people will say Alan Bestwick, go get Alan Bestwick or something. I mean, I'll throw in a vote for Mike Bagley. Love Mike Bagley.
Oh, yeah. Love Bagley. That was my vote, by the way.
Oh, that was going to be yours?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Mike Bagley.
I've got another one too, but go ahead.
Okay, go. You go.
Oh, so my Bagley, which I love Bagley, phenomenal. Dale Jr., Colburn.
Oh,
yeah,
what a booth.
And with Cole and his sarcastic comments, like just let him go, baby. Just let it. And Dale would love that, and Dale's perfect for that too. Like Dale would set him up. He'd be the perfect side. Like it'd be perfect. And Bagley would just have fun with that too. I mean, how great would that booth is the epitome of three dudes sitting in a bar just talking about NASCAR and what's going on.
This says we got a message here. Some people in the chat want you in the booth.
No one wants me in the booth. I don't have a face for TV.
Okay, well, some people wanted it. I'm just telling you what the people wanted.
No one wants that. I just can't believe NBC let him. Like, I just am shocked that NBC didn't figure out a way to retain him. Like, he's the face of that broadcast. You've got outside of the Daytona 500, you've got the biggest races on your schedule, the championship and everything like that. He's the face of the coverage. Like, how do you not keep him? Especially when you've utilized him so well. And, the Super Bowl, the Olympics, Kentucky Derby, Indy 500, like he is there. And he's done a really good job of integrating himself in those things where it's not like he's an interloper. He doesn't come in and just, oh my goodness, like this is a bad fit. It's like he goes there and ingratiates himself and does a great job and brings this different perspective. Like if I'm NBC, like you drop the ball, you let him get away. And I can figure out how that happened. I think this is the big loss for them. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, the thing for them is, I guess you could say, is like we had Rick Allen and Steve Letarte and Jeff Burton were our booth before Dale got here for 15, 16, 17. And so like they just go back to that, but that's fine. But Dale's people know who Dale is, and we had this conversation about like William Byron and like, superstars and stuff and like household names. People know who freaking Dale Jr. is, even if you don't follow NASCAR.
Yep, for sure.
And you said it right. It's credibility. That's the thing.
Well, that was a fun chat with our YouTube people. Hopefully we can try to do that more often since we are live after the races on there. And, of course, in addition to podcast form, don't forget to check out our work on The Athletic at theathletic.com/NASCAR. And Phoenix for me next week. Jordan, you're painfully having your 2-week hiatus here until the series goes back to you. But then I think I have to do the same thing with what is it? Is it Bristol and Richmond back to back?
No, Bristol. You're at Coda
or something. Oh, what is that? Is that
it
the
goes
order?
Bristol, Coda, yeah.
Oh, and then Richmond, Martinsville.
Yeah,
something like that.
Something like that.
Okay,
yeah.
so then I have to miss 2.
Yeah.
Well, it's been fun having them out west, obviously. So another one next week at Phoenix, everybody. Until then, talk to you next time on the Teardown. See you, everybody.